Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited today because we have our very own Andrea Beck, CMO of Alpha, in the house.
Yeah.
Now is what the foghorn sounds. We also have Mitch. We're going to be talking. Say hello, Andrea.
Hello.
We're going to be talking about discounts today and talk about a touchy topic, huh?
Controversial.
Controversial. Yeah. I think the best place to start with discounts is like from a high level. Are they good? Are they bad? And maybe we could, have some hot takes in here. Everybody loves a good hot take. Yeah. Let's open up the floor. Discounts. Good or bad for aesthetic practices?
I think it's a great question. Like I mentioned, touchy topic. I think it ranges drastically. Either it feels like very for or very against. Over the years, I've kind of come to think of it like discounts are like a fire, and a fire can either warm your home or it can burn it down. So it's important to use it properly because you don't want to be stuck in the latter space. So that's kind of the way that I view it, is that it is a tool.
I agree with that take, and I love the fire analogy. I'm so glad Mitch is coming today, rich with analogies. But just to riff off of that a little bit, I do think that it is a tool. It can be strategically applied, and maybe just light the candles that need to be lit when needed, but make sure you snuff them out on the regular, and you don't train people to just expect there to be candles lit all over the place.
Yeah.
So you don't want to train your audience to expect discounts and wait on the discounts. Otherwise, you're conditioning them to expect lower pricing on services that your business holds at a higher value, and you're never able to fully capture that revenue.
Yeah, I always think about the sushi restaurant. Is it the same in Dallas where you have the sushi restaurant that can't get away from the 50% off menu? Because there's like these sushi restaurants around here that, the 50% off menu is always an always on menu. Like, why would I pay for anything outside of the 50% off menu if that's why I went there in the first place?
They've painted themselves into a corner.
Yeah.
And I think, here, like brand guy speaking here, but I think the big problem arises of painting yourself, that's a brand statement. The big problem arises when you have created a painting of yourself, a brand that is, in this case, discounted. Like, nobody wants to be a discounted brand. So the question that I see with discounts is how do you create a brand that is all the things you want your brand to be, that is elevated and sophisticated, especially in aesthetics, right? Where you're competing against all other brands. And let's face it, everybody wants to be elevated, sophisticated, wants to be highbrow, not just a quick in and out, hastily put together spa, right? Everybody wants to be the it brand. How do you do that while also taking advantage of the part of the tool, right, that is in a really important part of the tool? Because right now in aesthetics, there's a lot of competition. So how do you get leads without discounts?
Yeah, the way that I see it is in direct response marketing, there's two ways to get people to buy. Both include, you have to make them feel like they are getting a good deal. Otherwise, they won't want to do it. And that's true for premium brands or for cheap brands. But the two ways that I see it are you can either lower your prices to make them feel like they're getting a good discount. And if you do it with guardrails, right? Because we don't want to burn our home down. But the other is to increase value. And if someone feels as though, even if it's a $3,000-$4,000 purchase, that they're getting a good deal because the value maybe is $6,000, $7,000, then although it's maybe 4 times, 5 times more expensive than just a single Botox procedure, for example, they still feel like they're getting a good deal. The key though is it's easier. And I think that's why a lot of practices do discounts versus adding value, is that it's easier, because the higher ticket you get, the more salesmanships, the more sales chops that you need. But it also means that instead of waiting on the lifetime value, because if you're doing a discount, typically I always recommend do it for one service, strategically advertise that one service, never see that discount again. And then the retention is where the revenue is, because a lot of times it's a loss leader. You may not make money on that first appointment, but you have to make sure that you have a process in place to get them back through the door. If it's value, then all of that value, all of that revenue is hit up front, because instead of $3,000 lifetime value, now it's $3,000 up front, because they might be getting 2-3 services in a package at the same time.
Yeah. So Mitch, you just started going into some pretty big philosophical, hey, when we discount, make sure like we hit them once, right? Never hit them again, or consider where the discount is taking place, but be really, really strategic about the retention piece, because that's the biggest piece in all of this. If you get a good patient in, right, you have to have some way of qualifying that good patient. But assuming that you do, make sure yada yada yada, make sure you retain. Okay, great. Why do we have to discount in the first place? I think it's a really big question that any practice would say. And again, coming from the brand guy of like, yeah, but I don't want to be discounted brand. Do I have to discount?
It's a great question.
What do you think, Andrea? Do you have to discount? Is discounting a requirement to be a successful med spa?
Ooh, even more of a juicy question.
I think that it is strategically beneficial to have that as a tool in your toolbox. But if it comes to be expected, that's where you start getting into trouble. That gets you back to the 50% off sushi menu that is always on.
Yeah.
You don't want to train people to expect discounts to be running on a regular basis. You want to deploy it strategically and reduce the predictability around it.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, I agree with Mitch that there's a huge opportunity to capture, or rather to emphasize value and maybe accomplish what a discount is intended to do through bundling services and increasing the ticket item, where the consumer can realize savings on that, but you haven't cheapened your brand in any way. It's a discount that's delivered through the efficiency of bundling services. And so that's one mechanism by which you can deliver value. Then there's also just reemphasizing your brand and the credibility and the authority you have in this domain.
Totally.
And just not compromising on your price, because you've earned the right to command that price point on your services, and you're not going to participate in the race to the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, race to the bottom is definitely a piece that's really important, because in my mind, when you choose to discount versus not, partially depends on the platform that you're advertising on too. When I look at the buyer,
like Groupon.
Oh,
I feel like that's
that is the, it's not even like,
don't you feel bad for Groupon themselves? Like they are kind of we own this space, and they're the brunt of every joke when it comes to discounting.
I don't want to be Groupon.
I don't want to be Groupon. It's like, except for your Groupon. Like, hey, wait a second. Wait, we're cool.
Who wants discount eye surgery?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, right? Actually, is like, we're asking people to trust us with their face, and that is a huge deal. And so when you think about a premium, you want to have a premium brand working on. You want to know what they're doing. You know, like they know what they're doing. And so going back to the buyer's pyramid, right? You've got 3% at the top that are actively searching for a solution to their problem, and then I like to simplify it. There's just 3 slices of that pie. 57% are in the middle, where they're open to it, but you know, they need a little kick over the ledge.
Yeah. Give me a little nudge.
Yeah. And then there's the 30% that are the trolls in the comments that never are going to probably be interested, and that's okay. But on the 57% in the middle range, those are the people that are on social media. They're the people who are on social looking for something to make them laugh,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Amuse me, social
yeah,
media.
Yeah,
I call
exactly.
them
Know
window
me.
shoppers.
Window shoppers. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. And so how do you grab their attention? Because that's the key. And I think that, again, best practices aside, I think that discounting is just the easiest way to get people's attention on that particular 57%. And so a lot of people do it. And I've been doing this for about 8 years in this industry. And at the beginning, there weren't very many people doing it. And so when you did a discount, it was like, holy smokes, we're getting leads for like $2 each, right? Now it's maybe more like $30 each, $40 each. And so you have to evolve over time. But I think that if you're marketing to the 3% at the top, there's a lot more opportunity to not discount because they're looking for your services. And you still can do it in the 57% as well on Meta and Facebook and Instagram. But you have to just be very strategic about it because it's a challenge. It is.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess going back to the original question, the way that I would think about why people discount in the first place is, one, the books are slow, right? And this is from an internal behavioral standpoint, like, it's like, well, what else do we do? And a lot of times marketing falls into this reactive tailspin. Yeah. We all hate to be in that reactive tailspin, like, guys, do something.
Yeah.
Like,
the
whatever
books are
it
empty,
is,
they're pissed.
Do something. And then you get it. Yeah. And then the reactive tailspin. And it's like, well, let's just throw 20% off.
Yeah.
$200.
Yeah.
You get Botox and you get Botox. And maybe we'll get out of the slow books phase. And slow books comes in a couple of different, comes from a couple of different sources, right? It's like, it's really the provider utilization is low. Provider's sitting, nobody's in the chair. Put somebody in the chair. And then that could also come from manager, and that could also it comes from every angle when books are slow. So that's one big reason that discounting happens in the first place. And unfortunately, that one big reason, that type of discounting, the nature of that discounting is totally different than the nature of discounting y'all are just talking about, right?
Yeah.
Reactive discounting is a different flavor, and it's one I think that we collectively, everybody wants to avoid. However, slow books happens. Sometimes it's seasonality. Sometimes slow books happens when, I don't know, like something else that is, I guess, not necessarily accounted for, and you like, reactive marketing still takes place regardless of best intentions, right? So again, slow books, that's one big reason. What about a new provider? Like, new provider isn't coming with a book of business, right? What about a new location? So there are times when we know that there is a reason to discount. And we can be strategic, and then there are times when it's reactive. But I think I'm sure there's the list could go on of why we discount in the first place, right?
Yeah, Andrea, you mentioned don't train your patients to expect it, and I think that is the key here. Everything that we've been talking about thus far, I think, is new patient based, and the warning signs come when you start. It's still fine to do discounts for established patients. I'm the one and done, get them through the door, lock them in through the experience, and then keep them coming in because they love you. But I also think that there's a place for strategic discounting for established patients. But thinking about the behavior that this is going to change or endorse in your patients is really critical. Because if you are doing, you're bringing them in from a $50 Botox gift card, and then 3 months later they come back and it's like, oh, I just got another $50 Botox gift card. And then another 3 months later, oh, I just got another $50 Botox gift card.
How many repeat offenses
Yeah.
does it take
now,
to, like,
now I'm
train?
in a space where I'm
I don't
waiting.
get it,
If I don't get it, I'm not coming.
I'm not coming. Yeah.
And that's the problem, where you start eating into your revenue. Versus, what if they haven't tried filler? Maybe now we incentivize them to go up the value ladder a little bit. And next time they come in and get Botox, now we give them a discount on filler. Now we're changing their purchasing behavior, because now when they come in, I'm willing to take even, don't skin me, but $200 off a syringe of filler if they come in their first 2 visits, right? So they come in for Botox. There's very hard data for Allergan that if you do not get them in for filler in the first 2 appointments for Botox within that time period, it's very unlikely that they won't. Yeah. But if you do, think about the back end ROI and the back end lifetime value that you add if you can get them hooked on another service before they then kind of extend their treatment journey with you and settle into, I'm going to be a Botox patient, not I'm going to be a Botox and filler patient. I think that's where it becomes strategic.
I do think that sometimes we overestimate price as a barrier to uptake on services. Hesitancy oftentimes is not around price point. It's about the commitment to the services themselves. There's concern about whether or not they're going to get the results that they want. And it can be price related, but if you start on a new service, you do think about the fact that it's going to become habitual. You will have to budget for it. And it's not necessarily the dollar amount so much that it is now something that you're committed to spending on a routine basis. And so I still come back to, can you prove out the value first to the patient of receiving these services and why they should try it and why they should look forward to great results, especially from you and your providers, so that it's a commitment that they're ready to make, that they're ready to take the first step and keep coming back for more. I think that oftentimes we truly overestimate how much of a nudge that they need on the specifics of the financials.
Great point.
I think if we put on our baby gloves sometimes when it comes to like this, I don't know if baby gloves are a thing. Is that a phrase?
Kid gloves?
Kid gloves.
Baby's like below kid. It's like we got like pillows on.
Yeah, we put on our kid gloves a bit, which I think that comes out of a mindset perhaps of like assume the lowest common denominator and try and figure that out, which goes back to your value triangle and like thinking about, well, actually, let's not completely overestimate, right? Like this idea of value. And I know from like talking to a provider's standpoint, like Alpha Wide, we've got the most incredible badass providers that do amazing work. And that's where the brand really comes in, is the brand doing its job of telling the story that this is not just trustworthy practice. This is not just a trustworthy practice. That this is a practice that will know you and make you feel like the most you have ever felt. And if so, then what would you think the value should be, right? Regardless, the function of the discount, though, to me has always been get their attention. And ideally, right, an ad creative is just that beautiful, right? Or like whatever that first touch point is that we get that lead to come in. Like ideally it does it in and of itself. But there is a nature to what you're saying, what you've been saying, Mitch, of like, there's just that nature of like, hey, here's the value, here's the discount. You hit them first, and then the retention or the story kind of takes over. I'd love to live in a world. I'd love to live in a world where like we don't have to discount at all. And it's all through other means at which we get leads. But the reality is that it is such a saturated market. And yeah, I have seen from the beginning the benefits of discounting and believed that it hasn't diluted brand. Like you can actually have both, and it just comes down to being strategic and knowing when not to discount.
And I think messaging is a big deal too, because the way that I view the messaging on the first-time patient discounts is we believe in our superior elite service and the experience that you are going to have when you come through. And so we want to give you a reason, an excuse to try it out. And if not, no hard feelings. But this is us putting our money where our mouth is on try it out. See if you like it better than your previous provider. And I think that if you message it that way, it's kind of a way of almost like, oh, I respect that. It's not, oh, I don't know if I want to go there because these guys have a discount. It's almost like there's a fear around if I do a discount, I'm going to lose trust from my patients. And I think that what you said, Andrea, is really important to think about is it's not always price. That is the reason why people don't come through it. But trust is a huge deal. And so I think that if you have, thousands of 5-star reviews and you have patients who are champions of your brand referring them out to other people, like referrals are huge in our industry. I don't think people realize quite how much it is a referral-based business as well. But I think that balancing all of it together, you don't have to do the discount. I've just found that if the goal is quality, you might attract the patients who are going to spend more, maybe be retained longer. But then if you do the discount, it's like, okay, we may be attracting some more tire kickers here. Maybe for every 10 that we get, it's like, oh, we've got maybe 3 or 4 who were a bit of tire kickers, but we got an extra 10 through doing the discount versus not doing the discount. Our cost per acquisition is lower. And so that's always the thing that you have to weigh, right? I mean, we've done ads in different markets and you do a free consult. It's like, holy smokes, this is like 50% cheaper than some of our super juicy discounts in other markets. So depending on where you're at in the country also makes a big deal as well. So I think it always comes down to split testing too. You have to try it, see how it goes, and look at the data because there's also a lot of subjectivity when it comes to quality with these discounts too. If you bring in 1 or 2 tire kickers, but 20 are, positive and great high spenders, sometimes that 2 taints the 20 if you aren't looking at the data and seeing how much of a actual case study we have. So those are a few just call outs that I think are helpful, but I would say messaging is a huge deal so that it doesn't feel as much like you're cheapening something.
So Mitch brings up a great point. In the case of A/B testing, one of the issues that practices have is amassing sufficient sample size to get a reliable read. But suppose you've cracked the code on that and you are able to get the data that's necessary to do these evaluations. Just straight math on the lead acquisition front. If you have a 20% lower cost per lead, you get 20% more leads on a discount than you do on an offer that's playing up the value of the brand, the reputation of your practice. Then, okay, you have 20% more leads, but if they ultimately transact at 20% discounted value, okay. So what happens with the 20% fewer patients who transact at the higher value? And then on the back end of that, they also have better retention characteristics because they didn't come to you for the reason of price point. They came to you because they trusted your brand from the outset. And then not only was that first visit more lucrative, but then their repeated visits are happening at a higher clip with greater reliability at a higher price point. They aren't waiting on the next discount to come along. Who are they going to be referring? Will they be referring people because they got a sick deal on their first Botox treatment, or are they going to be referring you based on the fact that they had an amazing experience with you and the value is absolutely there? So it's really important to look at what the data is telling you. This is not about being categorically opposed to ever doing discounts, and including new patient discounts. But you do have to be really careful about the frequency at which you're using them, how aggressively you're using them, and
and recognize too, in looking at data, that sample size plays a huge role in all of this.
The sample size. We could do a whole podcast on just A/B testing and analytics.
It just occurred to me while you were talking, Andrea. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting in between two brilliant humans. I'm sorry for bringing the collective IQ down so many clicks.
Whatever,
when you guys are,
whatever.
Holy cow.
Don't discount yourself. Don't discount. See what I did there?
Yeah, exactly.
But so there's, to Mitch's point, there are also different ways of positioning the discount, different degrees to which you can offer discounts on services. So it could still be a strategic lever that's less, not to be dramatic, but financially damaging. If it's something more modest, something enough to incentivize new patients and make them feel like you're giving them some reward for coming into the practice and giving us their trust. In exchange, we'll shave a little bit off of this visit. But I think if it's a more modest discount, it at least sets a better tone than something that's a lot more aggressive and
too steep, and you definitely lose trust. We've definitely found that in some of our tests as well.
Early testing.
But I think that's a great example of a guardrail is before flippantly discounting when you may not have to, know your data. How are your new patients right now? Like, where do you actually need to focus? I think looking at that kind of becomes the answer sheet.
I'm actually so glad we were landing on this because discounting is a philosophical conversation. And a lot of times when you get into philosophical conversations, you bring your own bias into your philosophical conversation. And data objectively substantiates the whole, like, it puts us all on a level playing field, that we still come at our philosophical, we still come at the topic philosophically, but it all of a sudden like changes, right? And thinking about even the stuff that you said, Mitch, about what works in some locations doesn't work in other locations. Like, you can't just flippantly throw a discounting strategy in one part of the country to another part of the country, which we have the benefit of Alpha to really see what's working in New Hampshire is not working in San Diego, right? Like, we're painting corners of the country, and the behaviors that exist in those areas are defined by a myriad of different things, a myriad of different reasons. So in looking at discounting, the role that data plays, which we're not going to get into in this episode entirely, but Andrea, you did throw a couple of bombs in there, which was beautiful.
I can offer one case study. For one of our partners, we've been marketing with discounts for them for 7 years, and strategically. But what I will say is, because of some of the pushback that we've received from discounts, because there is a lot of like, I don't like discounting in our industry, as we mentioned, kind of full circle from the start of the pod. But we did a 300 patient tracked journey throughout a 3-year period. We went back 3 years looking at historical data to see, okay, if we brought these patients through with a discount, what was their actual retention rate? Because maybe we're bringing in patients that are not good. And
are these actual Groupon tire kickers or whatever?
And so what we found, actually, it surprised me. So 76% retention rate over that 3-year period. That's different than rebooking rate. Rebooking rate would be, I walked out the door with a patient it's actually scheduled, versus within that 3-year period, those patients came back at least once. And then they spent an average of $1,000 each year for those 3 years. Only goes back 3 years. But one could assume if we are in an industry that, talks about aging, fixes the issue of aging, then over time, those patients will continue to increase in value, although churn will also happen as well.
Right.
The retention is absolutely there and the revenue is absolutely there. But that partner also is like a 998 on NPS score. So knowing how satisfied your patients are when they come through your door, that was the messaging that really worked. Like, the messaging doesn't work if you don't feel confident that when a patient comes through your door, they're going to be hooked for life and they're going to love you more than every other person that they've tried.
Right.
If you don't have that type of an experience, don't discount, because you will bring in one and done tire kickers. But if you truly wow them, then there is a way to lock in that retention. So you just have to do it right.
Well, and it also speaks, I think, a bit to the collaboration between marketing and operations. Or the system put in place that is in part sales, consultation experience, like everything working together so well at the clinic to take the leads and the conditions that they come in, and to convert them. Like, let's not make light of that. But I do think, this was the data again that was a large enough sample size for us to draw some really accurate conclusions that discounting in and of itself can be a good strategy. We also have data of other partners, like you had mentioned, in other locations where free consultations works as a means to which get new patients in the door and in the seat.
And we also have partners who don't do free consults. It's actually hundreds of dollars to come in through a free consult, and they don't ever discount, and they absolutely crush it too. So there isn't a one size fits all solution. I think that's the key takeaway.
I'm also interested in the folks who are using volume based discount. So it's similar to what we were talking about with bundling, but they have a tiered system by which when they purchase more units, as an example, they get a discount as they're utilizing more. So I think that those are ways of ensuring that the economics are actually bearing out for the practice, and the patient doesn't just feel like they are in fact getting some value out of that as well.
Well, I loved this. I loved sitting between two moguls going at it with discounts. Thank you so much, guys, for chiming in. Andrea in the house. Mitch, it's so nice to have have Andrea
talk about
put us in our place.
Talk about
You're like, oh geez.
I went easy on you guys.
Yeah, that was more to come, right? But again, thank you so much, and to all practices that are looking at discounting and figuring out ways to discount. Unfortunately, of like in many things, it's like there's nuance. Yes, sometimes, maybe, but other strategies to consider. But I think being the brand guy in this, as we kind of land the plane here, being the brand guy, I am. I've been conditioned to again believe that discounting. There's a way to do it without it impacting brand, and that the story can still be intact so long as you're very, very intentional and extremely choosy about when and how you do it.
Right. It depends sounds like such a cop-out, but it's the truth. You do need to get out there. You need to A/B test different methods of accomplishing a discount, test different degrees to which you're discounting, and test the situations in which you're using it, whether it's new patient offers versus returning patient offers, and calibrating it to specific events that might actually warrant some kind of discount, but avoiding making it an always on sort of program. You don't want to condition your patients in that way.
Love it.